7. Maybe we'll take it all in today. Maybe we won't. That's the joys of going through this stuff, is we never know how far we're going to get. All right, so it says, my son, keep my words and treasure my commands. Keep my commands and live, and my law with the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers, write them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister. Call understanding your nearest kin, that they may keep you from the immoral woman, from the seductress who flatters with her words. And so, again, just like chapter 6, verses 1 through 5, we have an introduction to the chapter where Solomon is just emphasizing the importance of hearing what he's about to say. And so, we've said that as we move forward into the book of Proverbs, and I don't know, I would actually say, starting in chapter 10, and this is where at my church, I actually taught this last topically. I grouped them all together so we could kind of hear all of the parenting wisdom at once. And so you'll see that really these opening wisdom and understanding wisdom. So there's actually topics at the beginning, but starting in chapter 10, my Bible actually says the wise sayings of Solomon. And this is where they start popping things out fast, all sorts of different subjects mixed together. So here's an introduction to chapter 7. The last 3 chapters where the main subject is adultery and sexual immorality. In verse 6, for at the window of my house I looked through my lattice, and saw among the people, I perceived among the youths a young man devoid of understanding, passing along the street near her corner, and he took the path to her house. In the twilight, in the evening, in the black of dark night, bad place, and he's going at a bad time. Some of you may learn there are places you shouldn't be, and even more so at certain times. There are places where you just know, I don't need to be here. There's no good for this place. And there are times where you know, and if I go there at this time, that's when I'm very much likely going to make a very bad decision. You know how that may apply to you all the more. And he says, there a woman met him with the attire of a harlot, with a crafty heart. She was loud and rebellious. Her feet would not stay at home. At times she was outside, at times in the open square, lurking at every corner. And so she caught him and kissed him. With an impudent face, she said to him, I have peace offerings with me. Today I paid my vows, so I came out to meet you, diligently to seek your face, and I have found you. Now, off the top here, it's funny because it's like, here's a harlot, a woman wanting to commit adultery, but she's done peace offerings. I mean, at least if you're going to fail morally, you fail with a believer, with a Christian woman. But that's kind of the idea, is like she's got this air of spirituality to her. 16, I've spread my bed in tapestry, colored coverings of Egyptian linen. I perfume my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love until morning. Let us delight ourselves with love. For my husband is not home. He's gone on a long journey. He's taken a bag of money with him and will come home on the appointed day. And the idea is simply, she's saying, here's the situation, Not only is it going to be a lot of fun, but there's no one who's going to catch us, right? I mean, that's the idea of temptation. In fact, I forget who's made the point or where I heard it, and I need to think it to say it right, but it says, many men and women are adulterers at heart, but oftentimes they either lack the guts or they lack the opportunity. And it's like, and I mean, that's not so lack the guts, but they're like, yeah, well, that's partly what it is. Like, here's a guy who probably would commit adultery. He's just afraid. And now there's a godly fear, but there's also like a cowardice, and that's part of it. But there's also just lacks the opportunity. There might be men who've been faithful, but only because the opportunity hasn't come along. And Satan knows. I've heard a few people preach on the evil day. When the evil day comes, we read about, What is the evil day? Well, it's when opportunity and temptation and what's the other one? I wonder if I flip to the New Testament if I could even find the evil day, or wherever I've written down that nice little combination. But the point is that it's when all these things combine: desire, temptation, opportunity. And so it's desire, temptation, opportunity. I got some verses I even wrote down with those, but it's just that idea that some people don't have desire. I have no desire to do certain things. So the temptation and opportunity are a little different. Temptation is like the thing being put in front of me to tempt me. The opportunity is that realization that I could get away with it and not be caught. And that's what we have here. We have a young man who not only has a desire, when this is what Solomon's doing. Solomon is trying to teach his son, if you choose today to not have the desire, bind this to your heart. Have it on your fingers, right? Tablet your heart. Keep my commands. Make my law the apple of your eye. If you can choose this day whom you will serve and deal with the desire part, then if temptation and opportunity come, you'll be okay because there is no desire. Again, it's my best example, and I think it's kind of corny, but it works for me, is due to a great amount of arrogance. I like to at least attribute it to sin and not my goodness. Due to arrogance, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I say arrogance because when I was young and in that season where probably I would have been the most tempted, I was an athlete. And so it was because of that. And then I got to this point where, I kid you not, I was very full of myself, and I had friends who smoked, and I just thought I was better than them. That's just where it gets down to. It's arrogance. It had nothing to do with spiritual conviction. My parents actually did a very good job of trying to keep me out of trouble in those ways. But the point is that since I've never smoked a cigarette, I have just no desire, right? And I get it. Other people, you've been addicted to cigarettes, and there's a desire. I have other things I've got issues with, so I get desire. I get that, But then using this example of something I have no desire for, it makes it simple. Like, yeah, you could give me opportunity. Like, I'm in another country in the middle of the wilderness. The church people would never found out that Joe smoked a cigarette. And I could have the temptation. The cigarette's sitting there with a lighter. So there's the actual thing and the opportunity of not getting caught, but there's just no desire. I could care less. And so that should be our heart when it comes to temptation, is that God would sanctify our hearts to where the desire goes away. Because sometimes there are days where it's like there might be opportunity. You're alone in the wilderness. No one will ever catch you. But there's no temptation there. There's no person to commit adultery with. There's no substance or whatever that this temptation may be, it's not there. And there's other times where there's a temptation, but there's no opportunity. It's like, wow, look at that hot chick. But obviously, there's no opportunity. Like, there's no way this is ever going to happen. But that's the idea. The three things: temptation, opportunity, and desire. And so here, backing up to our proverb, we're going to wrap up chapter 7 today. But this woman is saying, you've got a temptation. And so she's like, I got the bed, it's all made, I got perfumed, I've done all these things, and you've got opportunity. My husband's away. He's got a bag of money, meaning it's not like he needs to come home for funds. Like, he's got away, he's got a date, he's coming back. We know he's gone. So you've got opportunity, you've got temptation. It's falling on the son of Solomon, hearing Solomon's words, and he's warning him, don't have the desire. And so, with her enticing speech, verse 21, she caused him to yield. So he's telling a story, trying to teach his son about someone else who fell. With her flattering lips, she seduced him. Immediately he went after her as an ox goes to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till an arrow struck his liver. And as a bird hastens to the snare, he did not know it would cost his life. Now, an arrow to a liver is a death shot. Like, we don't get some of this stuff today. It's like when you get a shot, with an arrow, they snap the arrow off so that it doesn't get moved around. And then when you get back to camp, they can try and remove the arrow. But you get shot in the liver, and there's a dark blood that comes out. It's a much darker than normal, and that's a liver shot. It's over. There's no healing that person. And that's the way it would have been known in that ancient time. Now therefore listen to me, my children. Pay attention to the words of my mouth. Do not let your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not let stray into her paths, for she has cast down many wounded, and all who were slain by her were strong men. Her house is the way to hell, descending to the chambers of death. I've seen strong men fall to adultery. Strong men. Very strong men. That's the point. Unless you have the utmost assurity that there is no desire at all in your heart, then you stay far away from temptation and opportunity. That's what you do. I don't think I would struggle witnessing to people at a cigarette convention. I mean, that's just like it is. It's my corny example I use. Because there's just no desire there at all. But there's a lot of other places where even if there's a little desire, a possible desire, I realize the safest thing for me to do is to create distance, to put up walls, and do whatever I can to keep me away from both opportunity and temptation. And they're both different in some senses, because temptations are going to come. That's one thing. The enemy is going to find ways to send temptation your way. You can't always avoid temptation. But opportunity, that's something you can avoid. I do things to make it hard for me to be stupid. I go out of my way to avoid being stupid. I have one app on my phone that notifies my wife if anything inappropriate pops up. I have another app on my phone that just essentially shuts it down after a certain time at night. It only allows me to have my Bible and a couple key apps that I might need to use. And that even just has a verse that pops up if I try and open an app, and it just reminds me, it's like, you know what? You have a bedtime because you have a time you're supposed to be waking up at because you've got things to do tomorrow. Helps me, keeps me on track. I have a system where I do group chats. Anytime I have an ongoing relationship with a woman, it's a group chat. Arla, you're watching, we've got a group chat. Sandy, you're watching, we've got a group chat. I mean, it's just like, these are women I know from church and love, and I always tell people, I don't care how absurd the idea is of me and another woman. It's like, well, you could talk about a woman my grandmother's age. It's like, I get it. She's 95, but I just make it a plain policy. That way I never have to worry about arguing and twisting. And, well, I just make it a flat policy. Yeah, I keep my wife on all my conversations with ladies because I realize the evil day. The day I never want to see is when temptation and opportunity and desire all come at the same time. Because strong men have fallen. Strong men. And they've been reduced to a crust of bread. So, that finishes up our chapters on adultery. It's a rough section to go through because it's something that has created so much pain and so much heartache in families. It has been the fall of more than one pastor that I can name. I can just list off pastors who I've listened to their sermons, and these are guys I followed, and then they're no longer pastors because they fell to adultery. And so, yeah, good advice from the wisest man who ever lived. who eventually fell into sexual sin and adultery. Solomon. All right. God bless you guys. Have a great day. And I'll see you guys around.